to Bruery Society Beers, episode number 22 of Brutal Battle. Yes, it's been a while since we've done one of these episodes. I'm still doing them by myself, and I believe before I was doing 3 beers in an episode. I'm just going to cut it down to 2, because usually it's larger format bottles, and the other episodes have become shorter, more bite-sized, if you will, anyway. So I'm just going to take this one that direction as well. So there will be 2 beers during each of these, and I'm still doing them, one per sitting, basically, since they are big beers. And sometimes I'm just drinking them myself. Like this one is going to be all me. I'm fine with that because it's looking good. But yeah, so the brewery, by the way, I have re-upped again. We'll be doing Hoarder Society again for 2023. Very excited about that. They have some really interesting stuff coming. This beer that I'm doing first for this episode is not a Hoarders exclusive. From my recollection, it is a society exclusive. I think this may have been like Hoarders level and reserve level only, but not 100%. Now, this one is in a 750 milliliter bottle. This one I already opened off podcast because it not only had a cap to it, it also had a cork inside because it's spontaneously fermented. This is their Myrtillheim, Myrtill, and then Heim, Heime. It's an oak barrel-aged, spontaneously fermented sour ale with blueberries. This is a version of their Spontaneheim, which is basically the same thing, but without blueberries. Now, this one is 6.2% alcohol, so that's the type of beer I really like to see from the brewery. Way more sessionable than their super high ABV stouts. So I'm going to give this a bit of a pour. It is already looking exactly as I expected. Very reddish in color because of the blueberry and the time spent with contact with blueberry flesh, because it'll give you that coloration. But it looks good. You can kind of see through it. It's not like super hazy or anything like that. Looks pretty clear. It has some it's just large bubbles hanging out on top for the head. Smelling it, smells decently funky, like you would assume from a spontaneously fermented beer. It's got that kind of Brettanomyces type funk to it. It's got a very lemony sourness, and it's not coming off tart, like it is coming off sour. And typically the brewery sours, or in this case, it's Bruery Theriault, their sours are usually pretty sour. It's very seldom that they're actually in the tart category. They're usually very firmly in the sour category, and that's the way this smells, getting plenty of aggressive kind of lemony sourness in the nose. That funkiness, like I was talking about, it smells pretty crisp and clean. I wouldn't say that I particularly smell blueberry. There is something in there. I'd be like a berry, like some sort of berry fruit smell. And there's a slight kind of honey sweetness on the finish of the nose, which is very interesting to me. I wasn't expecting to get that in there. So, let's go and take a sip. Ooh, yeah. That sourness kicks you right in the taste buds real quick. I need to take a few sips for my palate to acclimate, but right off the bat, it's a lot of that lemony sourness, and it is sour, like I said, in the nose, not tart, definitely sour. I'm getting some of the fruit, but that lemony sourness is kind of taking over. I'm getting a bit of that funkiness, that kind of Brettanomyces type funk to it. It's almost a slight bit chewy in its viscosity, and I think a lot of that's being added with the fact that because it's relatively sour or quite sour, it's actually creating extra phlegm in your mouth, which is kind of adding to the viscosity of the beer. We'll have to see how things go with me trying to do an entire 750 of this myself. It might just make my tongue bleed, to be honest. So maybe I'm just going to drink like half of it tonight, maybe, and then use a wine vacuum on the bottle, put it back in the fridge, and maybe finish it tomorrow night. That might be a better idea. Now, as I keep going with it, obviously still getting that lemony sourness, I am getting a little bit of that kind of honey sweetness. I said I was getting on the nose, but again, just like in the nose, it's very faint in there. Definitely tasting the blueberry, but tasting as like, it's like berry. It's good. The blueberry is actually coming off kind of wine-like. Like, because of the flesh of the blueberry, there's a bit of a tannin note in there. Like, you get a lot from red wine grapes, the skin from red wine grapes. So it's tasting kind of wine-like, but with a blueberry kind of edge to it. It's good. It's good. I'm enjoying it. And that funkiness is coming through. The funkiness is not as pronounced in the flavor as it was in the nose, but it's good. If you like having phlegm created for you and being pretty puckered up, this is a sour that will cut through some cheese if you have cheese. That's one of the great things about sour beers is that it does a good job of cutting through the fattiness of cheeses, especially a cheese kind of like a, what am I thinking? A real buttery kind of thick one. Brie. Brie is what I was thinking of. Sours go very well with brie cheese, but yeah, it makes me want some cheese now. But this is a good one. Pretty good. We'll have to see how it stacks up against the second and final beer of the episode. So going on to that one now. And this one is the Walnutter. This is a rye barrel-aged imperial porter with dulce de leche, walnuts, vanilla beans, and salt. And this is one that Rebecca was really looking forward to drinking. She's not on these episodes, but she drinks the beers with me typically, except that Myrtillheim. She was not into that one. They're usually too sour for her, but she's very excited about this one. And obviously because of what's in it, it sounds amazing. Once again, rye barrel-aged imperial porter with dulce de leche, walnuts, vanilla beans, and salt. It is 13.5% alcohol. Oh, and that actually reminds me if there's... trying to see 24 months of aging for spontaneous fermentation for the Myrtillheim. I was just scanning real quick to see if there was any flavor text. Not much flavor text that really matters that much. Just the 24 months of aging, spontaneous fermentation. So, the Walnutter, getting into it. Obviously, another 750 milliliter bottle. Pop that sucker open. Do have high hopes for this one. Gonna pour it. I'm sure it's just gonna look like a stout / porter, because that's what it is. All right. And it looks dark. Yeah. Yep, really dark. Let me swirl it around. 13.5%. Yep. It's got some decent legs around the edges of the glass as I swirl it around. Kind of coming down very slowly because it is more viscous because of that alcohol level. Smell? Ooh, I do get the nuttiness. I definitely get the walnuts. And along with the walnuts, a lot of times with beers, when you have nuts in them, you get like that proteiny note on the nose, and that's there. Like, you can smell the proteininess of the walnuts and the actual smell of walnut. Definitely get the vanilla beans. Vanilla beans are quite strong. I'm definitely getting the spirit from that rye barrel. There is a little bit of an astringency, a little bit of like an alcohol heat on the nose, but it's not smelling bad. It's actually smelling really good because it's well balanced by that vanilla, by that walnut, also by some nice chocolate in there, and getting a little bit of that dulce de leche. But it is getting, the dulce de leche in the nose is getting slightly lost to me between the vanilla and the chocolate. It's kind of blending in there. But it really does smell nice. There's also a slight raisin note on the nose, which, you know, that happens with higher ABV beers, especially barrel-aged ones. So that makes sense. It smells really good. And the chocolate on it is like a dark chocolate. All right, going in. Ooh. That is unbelievably deceptively smooth for 13.5%. Well after the sip, like a few seconds after the sip, I'm starting to feel some warming in my throat. But other than that, actually on my palate, you would never know this is 13.5%. Super dangerous for that reason. Let me go in for another sip. There's a decent chocolatiness. You definitely get the walnut in the flavor, which is great because a lot of the times when beers are made with nuts, you don't get a ton of the actual nut. So they did a good job pulling the walnut flavor out of here. Again, like I was saying in the nose, how like proteiny it is in the nose because of the walnuts. You get that in the flavor. It's got like a real thickness to the mouthfeel. And if you've ever had walnuts, they have like this drying bitterness, slight bitterness, but drying bitterness on the end of when you're chewing them. And you get that in the beer because of those walnuts. The dark chocolate is definitely there. I'm definitely getting the vanilla. The rye barrel is present, but in the best way possible. It's more low level in the flavor than I expected it would be prior to even opening the bottle. This is a nice beer. It's quite nice. It's very mellow. It's very low key for being as high ABV as it is. That's kind of crazy to consider. This isn't one that's going to crack the top 10 for these Brewery Society Beers episodes, but it's a really good one, and I'm very happy with it. Once again, it is so sessionable for 13.5. This is dangerous, beyond dangerous. So, awesome. This was a good one. So, I mean, you can probably tell based off my reaction, the winner for this episode is going to be the Walnutter. Again, the rye barrel-aged imperial porter with dulce de leche, walnuts, vanilla beans, and salt. And then the Myrtillheim, still good beer. Oak barrel-aged spontaneously fermented sour ale with blueberries. Is there any flavor text that I need to read on this one? They modeled the Walnutter to be like a homemade salted caramel walnut bar, apparently. And it was aged in the rye barrels for 24 months. That's 2 years. Jeez, that's a lot. Yeah, okay. Well, well done on that one, and that was awesome. So, all the stuff at the end, you want to email us, brutalbattlepodcast@gmail.com, for whatever reason. Back episodes on brutalbattle.com or archive.org. You can search Brutal Battle. Also, the pictures are on the website as well of all the beers, as well as Instagram, which is Brutal Battle Podcast on Instagram. We're on Untapped. I'm Carlton Malibu, all one word. It's spelled as it sounds. She is Ruby Reb 813, I think, or I don't remember, honestly. Ruby Reb 62, I don't know. It's weird that I forget that. But anyway, what else? Is there anything else? Not really, except please rate us and review us through whatever podcatcher you use. That really does help us a lot. iTunes in particular. And word of mouth. Tell people about the podcast. Really do appreciate that. Hopefully you enjoyed this Brewery Society Beers episode, because I know it's been a bit since we've done one. We'll do more, but I want to do a bunch of mystery beers episodes for a while. So it might be a little bit before we do another one of these. But, we'll see. Sometimes I just do episodes when I feel like it. But regardless, thank you so much for taking your time to listen to this. And until next time, keep it brutal.